On July 25th, 2020, it happened. I got my blood pressure so high in the parking lot of the marina, and I ran back to my boat to try to get my phone to call 911. And as I was stepping out of my sailboat, my phone slipped and fell down back in the boat. And my last words, as everything was getting dark, was, "F you, God. If you're real, show me." Immediately, everything got pitch black dark, and I felt like I went down in a black tunnel underneath the crust of the earth. I ended up in hell, the darkest place I'd ever been in my entire life, and I just started running and hiding. I gave up. I completely gave up, and I accepted that I was not going to be able to make it to this life. And I heard a voice in my conscience, and the voice said, "This is your last chance. Show me everything you've got."
Jeffrey, welcome to God's Voice today. I am so excited to have you on the show. A few days ago, we connected on the phone for my other YouTube channel, God's Voice Daily, and you shared your powerful testimony, how you went from being an atheist. You died for 52 minutes, went to hell, and stood in the presence of God. And since I published that story a couple of days ago, your story kind of went viral. People are watching it. They want to hear more. They want to see you on camera. So I'm so excited that you are finally here. But during that episode, you were like 20 minutes away from the airport. You parked and you spoke to me. By the way, thank you so much for taking time away from everything. But you were on your way to see your mother, who was battling with stage 4 cancer. And I now know that she transitioned. And I want to hear from you more. What was that moment like? You finally, you were able to get there just in time, right?
Yes, it was excuse me, it's going to count me. It's only been a couple of days, but it was a legit gift and miracle from my mother and God that she held on until I got there. I had about an hour and 40 minutes with her before she actually went to heaven. It was one of the most beautiful and scariest moments of my life, but it was surrounded by the peace of God somehow, and it really gave me a lot of comfort.
Mm. In fact, I'm interviewing you from her home, right? In Wilmington.
Yes. I'm staying here with my grandmother. My sister lives across the street here, and we're just trying to absorb things right now and do what we can to kind of...
Man, and I appreciate you taking time away from everything you had going on. I remember even on that call when you were talking to me, and I was telling you, like, Jeffrey, please, you can go on. Like, we can talk about this later. He says, no, my mother would love for me to do this. It's that important. And now, back when I talked to you before she transitioned, and now afterwards, everything that happened, man, I want you to kind of zoom out and jump anywhere you feel is appropriate and share your whole story. And your mom is a big part of that story. And it's a God moment that you are now in her house sharing that story. So Jeffrey, without any further ado, just jump right in wherever you feel is appropriate. How did you get to that encounter? What led up to it?
Man, a lot of things led up to me finding God. A lot of things led up to that. I should have found him a long time before that, but I was very stubborn, very prideful, and I just did not believe in anything. I just thought the lights went out and that was it. And we just started somewhere else. You're going to have to coach me, Vlad, man. My heart's beating out of my chest. The first time we talked, it was almost just natural for me. I was on the side of the highway getting past at 90 miles an hour. I could almost see the airport. Man, I just want to get this off my chest. Man, I got a phone call on the 24th at like 3 a.m. from my sisters saying, "Get down here now." My mom had just taken a really bad turn. She had been in the hospital for about 7 or 8 days, and they really couldn't figure out what was going on, if her cancer was just progressing that much. Man, I just want to do a long story short here. She was done fighting. God had big plans for her. And the timing, God's timing on all this is just, man, it's emotional, but it was perfect. She ended up passing on the 25th. I was able to get there. Right. I mean, she was holding on for me. I know that. God allowed that for me. And man, it's hard for me to fight through these tears. I'm going to find the peace that he gives me. But I was always scared of any moment of being around anybody dying, especially holding their hand and watching them take their last breath. But there was an overwhelming amount of peace that came to me with her last breath. And it was covered in the glory of God. That's all I can say. And man, I felt her kind of holding and squeezing my hand the entire time, knowing that she didn't have energy to do it. And she possibly wasn't even there. She probably was 90% of the way in heaven. But God gave me that moment, and I needed that moment. If I could have made it without it, but I really needed that. I did not want my mom to not see me there or not feel me there. I'm her only son. It was a big part of her life, getting me to God and making sure that I was walking straight with him. Very emotional dude right now, but
yeah, well, and she was a huge part of that journey. She prayed you back.
She was the biggest part. When that happened to me, when I had that stroke on the boat, my mom lived a couple miles down the road, and she ended up just there as like people were attending to me. And she said she got a weird feeling, and she just started driving to the boat. She knew something was up, and man, it's been 5 years now and some change, but
well, let's get back to that boat moment. So you were an atheist. You were pretty successful. What you were a chef, right? Executive chef. You were climbing up the ladder. You're doing great, right? Life was good. And then what happened? And you didn't believe in God, right? You completely God was not a part of your life.
I didn't. And I faked it, buddy. I faked it like probably half the people out here, man. I never even really mentioned the name God. I had no knowledge of the Bible at all. I didn't know Jesus was a real person. I thought it was a make-believe story. I thought he was a religious freak. There was those things. I thought church was weird. So I never dove in that. I just, tried to use my manpower to get through life. And yeah, man, I started having strokes is what was happening. And I was constantly drinking myself to death for about 20 years. I was trying very hard, man. I was what you call a high functioning alcoholic. Nobody ever confronted me. Everybody knew, but nobody confronted me, especially the owners of the restaurants. They needed me. They wanted me. They always told me, man, you're the best executive chef I've ever had. And that's saying a lot for somebody who was drinking a fifth of Tito's every single day. And that was just what I did to get through the day. I was constantly jetting out to the bars, taking shots of Rumpelmints to hide the vodka smell. It was one of the only things I could hold down towards the end, man. My liver, my whole entire digestive system, it was bleeding for years. And I was dying. I had doctors tell me quite a few times throughout 20 years that if I didn't stop that, I wasn't going to make it. I didn't listen. I just kept going. I was purposely trying to kill myself. And it failed in other ways before, and I just figured the alcohol would take care of it. And if I died in the kitchen, that would be glorious. Now I need you to guide me, my friend.
Well, and speaking of death, so you did die. How did it happen, and what happened after your transition?
Okay, it was my 7th stroke. I was on my sailboat. I was 1 year sober. There was no drugs in my life. I was doing great. I had my own sailboat. I had a little condo on the beach, and I had my restaurant on the beach. I could walk to all three within 20 minutes. I had a beautiful chocolate lab. My life was doing real better than it ever had. And I gave myself all the credit because I felt like I earned it. I earned my way there. I finally had my own restaurant, and I was making a lot of money. I was saving it. I wasn't blowing it on alcohol. And I got in front of a couple of neurologists that couldn't quite figure it out. They could see that I was having strokes on MRIs. They could kind of tell that it was blocking here in my artery here. And I was just told constantly, don't get your blood pressure up. Do not do that, man. You're a ticking time bomb. Well, this day, July 25th, 2020, I got my blood pressure way up. It was a really hot day. I had an argument with a girlfriend, and I ran from my boat all the way to the marina parking lot to try to catch her before she left. And as I was running, I could tell that my heart was just doing some like palpitations or whatever you want to call that. And I could even feel my right artery jerking around, and I just kept running, and I missed her. And so I started like running back to my boat to get the phone to call her. And then I realized I don't need to call her. I probably need to call 911. And the closer I got to my boat, the harder this throbbing started hitting me, and I started getting really woozy and dark. I went down the stairs in my sailboat. I found my phone. I grabbed it, and I was getting ready to come out of like onto the cockpit, and my phone just slid right between my legs and went down the stairs. And it was just too late. I knew it. And at that point in time, I was just so frustrated. I knew I was going to wake up in the hospital again and barely could walk. I was going to have to relearn a lot of things. My taste buds would get jacked up every time. I lost my ability to play the guitar efficiently. I mean, and as a chef, using your hands is very key. And each time these things happened, I'd have to restart and relearn things. And I was frustrated with that. I knew what was going to happen. And in just the last breath I had, I got so angry with whoever was in charge of the world. And I said this, God, if you're real, show me something. And right then and there, man, I swear I just collapsed right there, ba-boom. And it all went dark, and I went down in a dark tunnel, like almost like a dark tornado tunnel. It was black. And I just went I just felt like I just went right underneath the earth, man. I just descended underneath the earth, and I hit like a black surface, and everything. I started looking around, and everything was black. I started hearing things, and all I could relate to was that somebody possibly gave me a bunch of LSD. And, I had done that stuff when I was younger, and it was a little different. It wasn't, it was something more, there was more reality to this. And I kind of woke up, let's just say I kind of woke up, and I wasn't where I was. I wasn't on my sailboat. I was in the darkest place you could ever imagine. I tell people, if you're a little kid, maybe 5, 6 years old, and you're living in a big, scary castle, and your mom grabs you and brings you down to the basement into the dungeon where it's jet black, slams the door, chains it up and locks, and she leaves. And it's nothing but you in complete panic in the dark. There was nothing there. There was no light. Man, I could see and feel like minute hairline fractures of redness, almost like lava. Your intro actually did it justice, because I didn't even explain that part to you. There's so many things I don't want to say, and I will leave out, but there are so many things people need to hear, because I've been listening to these testimonies for 5 years, and I've run across thousands and thousands of atheists that this has happened to, and they never believed in hell. I knew where I was, man. I knew I was lost, and I was done, and I was trapped. I tell people this. The reason why I know I collapsed for 52 minutes is because I saw a video of my body go boom, and it laid there for 52 minutes, and then it magically gets up. And that 52 minutes is the 52 minutes I remember in heaven, which I tell everybody I feel like I was able to spend an hour in heaven. But the time I spent in hell was, it felt like years. It was so long. It was so long. It almost felt like an eternity. And I just kept running from things. Let's call them things. It seemed like there was like these black Spanish like beasts chasing. Something was chasing me, man. I just kept feeling around, running and hiding as fast as I could. I was scurrying out of, harm's way. I was just running and hiding. And that was the norm forever. And out of the middle of nowhere, and I mean out of the middle of nowhere, I look up and there is the tiniest, I mean, it's like somebody took a pin of white light. It was just, where did that come from? Right? Wrapped around that light was this weird hope in my heart. Like, man, I got to get to this light. I can get out. There's a way out now. Man, I'm very strong, Vlad, man. I'm very strong mentally and especially physically for my size, man. Dude, it was like climbing Everest, and I had never climbed a big mountain, but that was the physical strain it took to get to this light each time. It felt like it was thousands of miles away, and I get really close to it. And man, every time I got close to it, something grabbed me, like almost like from the back leg, and just started dragging me fast all the way back to where I was, even further past where I was. And it kind of cornered me. This blackness would corner me, physically, like assault me, beat me up a little bit. I felt strikes. I mean, it was weird. I just didn't understand what was going on. And I would try it again, and I'd almost get to this light. I'm like, I got it. And again, yeah, boom, further back. I tried this thousands of times, man, with the same exact result every time. And all I could tell you was it was impossible, man. It was impossible to get out of there. There was no way out of there. I couldn't do it. And I remember the last time I tried, I was so exhausted. And when I got back into that corner, I just crouched down and I accepted it. And I just accepted the fact that I was lost. I was gone. There was no way out. I'm going to be here forever. And right about then, right when I completely almost gave up, right in here, man, in my conscience, almost telepathically, I heard this voice, man. It was very strong. And it said, "This is your last chance. Show me everything you've got." And that woke me up. And it also gave me like some kind of ambition and hope. And I immediately felt like there might be a chance now. All right. And I just said, I'm going to show you everything I got. And I actually got upset. I'm getting out of here. And anytime anything got my way, I plowed right through it. And I just kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going. And you're about to run into some stuff that I didn't have time to tell you last time. But man, I'm almost to this light. And I see this. It was almost like I ask everybody this. If you ever seen a piece of rebarb metal, it was like a mesh fence of rebarb. There wasn't a hole bigger than this. It was hot. It was kind of waving, but the light was beyond that. And it was like a mesh cage. I'm telling you, it was like rebarb. It was extremely thick, and there was no breaking this stuff. And I could feel God. I didn't know what it was at that point, but that light was calling me. Come on, man. You got it. You got it. I could just, I didn't audibly hear that, but it was like this light was saying that I could make it. Just go. It was very painful, man. It was very painful. It was like getting in a meat grinder, an old school hand crank meat grinder, and putting your finger in one at a time. And I wanted to back out every time it was so painful, but I knew that I couldn't. This was my only chance. And I just plowed through that, and the pain was so intense that I felt like I almost fainted. But before I fainted, I felt like a huge hand almost helped me out of there. And I went flying way up in a white tunnel, just like at jet speed up into this white tunnel, way up. And I mean, way up. And I kind of felt like I came to a little bit. I was just so exhausted. And I tell people this, if God's hand was like this big, I was just like a little pea shoot in this thing, man. I was nothing, a speck of dust. I was a mustard seed, bro. And it was God. I don't know how to explain it. The white light, the love, everything about it. I knew it was heaven and God. And even though I didn't know God, he knew me from the beginning. He was showing me. And it was almost like he shut the doors of heaven right behind me. And I felt like he said, sit down with a lot of authority. And I just had a life review, like a movie on three, like I was in the front row eating popcorn, but I wasn't proud of myself here. But where he started, and how would I know that that a God existed until he showed me all this, was when my mother was giving birth to me. It was like he was the camera, or him that was videoing all this was in the room. And I saw all this happen. I saw a baby come out, and I could tell that that was me. And then it was like every dumb thing I had ever done, was recorded. And each time he stopped like a teacher and was trying to scold me, or I wouldn't say he was scolding me. He was trying to teach me and help me to learn what was happening in these dark moments of my life. And he went through all these things, which you would obviously call sin, and things that I never felt great about doing. But when we're young, we're ambitious. We want to do all the drugs. We want to have all the women in the world. I wanted all the money and all this stuff. I wanted to be at the top of everything. He just started going through my life on these very private moments of only the God of everything would know inside my conscience. And when he really got my attention is, I remember the first time I tried to kill myself. Boom, there was nobody there but me in that house. But God was there, and he was showing me. And I'm telling you, each time I try to kill, this one right here in particular, there was a gun cabinet. And I had been scoping this gun cabinet out in this house forever, man, about 4 or 5 weeks. I knew where the key was. It never moved in years. It wasn't going to move. The guns that were in there, I knew how to use. I knew exactly which one would take my head off. And I called, let's just say I kind of played sick one day with an agenda of killing myself. And I found a bottle of tequila and I chugged it. I chugged it all the way down to nothing. And when it was time for me to get this key to open up the gun safe, it was gone. It was completely gone, dude. And I searched the entire house like mad, frantically looking like, who did this? Like, why, how would somebody know, right? Well, God comes around right now through my life review and he goes, me, I did that. I did that. I didn't allow that. I didn't allow that. And he went by each of those times, and my number is 7 because he told me it was 7. I tried to kill myself 7 times, man. 7 times. And I didn't even realize it until he started adding up. And I was like, oh, yeah. A lot of these times I'd forgotten. I swallowed a bottle and a half of pills when I was younger in Henniker, New Hampshire. And I was living in an apartment by myself. And I knew what these pills were doing to me anyways. It was 100 times more than I needed to get high off of. And I just remember hearing the door knock one day, and I opened up the door. I found a note and I crumbled it in my pocket. And I had read that note later. It was a suicide note, and I just threw it away. And I was like, whoa, God was there during that review. He said, And 7 car accidents I had been in, and man, they were all disastrous miracles. Like there's no way I should have lived through any of these things. You can look at one of them when I was like 7 years old. We were hit by an 18-wheeler, and the car was turned into about the size of that. They had to cut me out with the jaws of life, but I'll never forget. It was almost like time stopped when I was in the back seat. And I turned around as the truck was hitting us, and it was like 3D. It reminded me of the Jaws movie when it came out with 3D. The glass just slowly went by me, and there was God in that moment. All those car accidents, he was showing me that he saved me. It wasn't a coincidence. And man, I started having massive amounts of respect and love for this light that was like saving my life. And I was like, wow, why would you do this? Like, why would you do this for me? Like, what have I ever done for you? And he just started examining my heart and my conscience, man, and he found good in there. I didn't think I was a good dude for all the bad things I did, man. I always felt convicted when I lied about something, and I was a big, big liar. Alcohol will make you a liar, man. You're going to lie your way out of everything. And from a sober person now, when I see somebody lying, it is so dumb. So I must look pretty stupid in God's eyes and in the entire world's eyes on these dumb lies I used to make up, from a kid on the way up. And man, let's just say he found some good in me. But I think the most important thing he found in me was zero knowledge of the Bible, zero knowledge of his son, absolutely zero knowledge that God existed or hell existed. You know, I had just been introduced, but I had never believed in it. And nobody ever talked to me about Jesus, you know, and they say God has a sense of humor. Without a doubt, he's got a sense of humor, because I was pleading with him. I said, Big Bang Theory, man. They taught me in school, Vlad. I remember reading the books that we evolved from monkeys, that there was a big bang. And I just bit on that. It made a lot of sense to me, right? And he laughed and laughed and laughed at that. And he showed me really quickly how he created everything. And all I could say was almost like he rolled a bowling ball down an alley and rolled a strike. And it just all laid out perfectly. Like I said, never read a word of the Bible. I'd never even heard a word of the Bible. I was without a doubt in a couple church services when I was a little Keebler. I was apparently baptized when I was a little Keebler. But I feel like one of the main reasons why I'm sitting here right now is because I had never denied him, because I never knew him. And I believe that anybody that has knowledge of God's existence and denies it has to change extremely soon and find the truth, because the truth is coming, and there's no way out of the truth, you know?
Hey, before we get back to the episode, my father has a free gift for you. So let me explain. For those of you that don't know, my father was an underground minister in Kiev, Ukraine. My father risked his life preaching the gospel on the streets of Kiev, Ukraine, at the time when it wasn't popular or allowed. And he also raised a family of 9 children in the most hostile environment. There's so many lessons that he learned throughout his journey. And for years, I've been begging him. I was saying, Father, please write a book about your life, about your journey. And he would always dismiss it as, who wants to read a book about my life? And I was like, my children, me. And so, you know what? Finally, he sat down, he wrote the book. He did it in like 1 week. I translated the book to English, and both of us, we want you to have this book for absolutely free. And the way to get this book is super simple. Go to Instagram, find me at God's Voice Today, and send me a private message with the word book. And I will automatically send you a link to get it. And now, let's get back to the episode. Enjoy. Man, there's so many follow-up questions. Well, it's interesting because some of the things you shared in this conversation, you didn't share in the other one. So I feel like I'm listening to this for the first time all over again.
Yeah, I just didn't have enough time, bro. I was like looking at the airport, and I was just, but like when you called, I missed 2 calls already, right? And I was like, nah, I just can't do it, man. I was too upset. I was too worried, and I was on 89 South, and like it was crazy busy, and I pulled right over on your 3rd call. Wow. And I just gave it to you the best I could. And what you got is usually the testimony I give to somebody in my restaurant. It's short and sweet. I don't think everybody wants to hear all the personal details, and a lot of that stuff that God showed us, like all these people that have passed, it's always personal. And, you know, I don't want to procrastinate at all on the future by any means, because I'm a nobody and I'm no prophet. I'm not a prophet, man. I'm not anybody special.
Well, and by the way, I just literally sent you the invite to pick a time that works best for you for the interview. I was not expecting you to be so quick about jumping on a call. Literally a couple hours ago, you hopped on, you registered, and with everything going on, and there's a lot going on right now, you're still willing to share your story. But I want to get back to the life review. Man, you got the be with God in his presence? Did you get to see him? What does he sound like? I'm sure people will be asking.
A big, beautiful ball of white light, the most kindest, loving energy I ever felt in my entire life. Man, I could only explain it like this. I felt like he was my true father, that he was the one that actually created all of this. And it was like I knew him. It was like I knew this place, and it was, I didn't know what he was going to do with me. I really didn't know what he was going to do with me because I was so bad. And, I had done so much damage in people's lives, and especially mine, that I don't know, I didn't deserve to be in the presence of God, man. I didn't deserve it, man.
Well, Jeffrey, something that's really stood out to me when you were in that utter darkness, right? And when you heard, this is your last chance, show me everything you got. Why do you think he said that? Why did he say that? Like, what was he expecting to see from you?
Man, I'm a beast, bro. I'm a beast like, if you know how you hear about people lifting up cars and stuff with that superpower and stuff. I can channel that sometimes. For I only weigh like 200 pounds, but I get this great amount of energy sometimes, and I can do things that a lot of big guys can't do. I can pick up a lot of big things. So it was like he was telling me, there's something inside you that you need to use right now to get to me. You're not using it. You're not giving it your all. You got more. And most of my life, I'd given up when it had gotten too hard. I'd given it up when it had gotten too hard. I'd lost quite a few people and friends, close friends, to drinking, and, loved pets and stuff like that. And I don't know, man. I get a little lost when I tell this story sometimes, because it's just super emotional. And that's why God's got you here to coach.
And in these circumstances, man, I got you like, so you didn't have much time to prepare for any of this. So I appreciate you being so raw, so real. And that's what people love. I want to see raw. I want to see real. But that life review, I keep thinking about it. Man, what other things in that life review that you saw that others can benefit from? The things that God revealed to you that you wish you knew before you saw it.
He was showing me that the end of the world was coming. No matter what we could do. There's nothing we could do to stop this, that we had done this, that since the beginning we have just been messing his place up. We have been making his house dirty and not cleaning it up. It's like going and staying with your mom. Like if I'm staying at my mom's house right now, she's in heaven, but I went outside this morning and I started picking up all the dog poop I could find. You know what I mean? I swept the house yesterday. I'm asking my grandma, what can I do? I want to keep this place alive. We have been really messing up his planet, or the earth that he created for us. And it's got to hurt him pretty bad, because he created us with nothing but great intentions, and he gave us free will. So he allows us to be dirty in his house, but man, if I could tell just by your appearance, and you're a God-fearing man, that you wouldn't leave your mom's house dirty if she let you stay in it for a few days, would you? You wouldn't eat all the food and leave it empty. You wouldn't trash the floor. You wouldn't take a poop and not flush it, kind of thing. It's a respect thing, I think.
Well, but something else you mentioned in the last conversation we had, well, the number 7, but God told you that we have 7 years, right? To warn everybody. Tell me more about that. What exactly did he mean by that?
Man, he told me that my whole life was going to revolve around the number 7. He showed me that I had been in 7 car accidents that should have killed me. He revealed to me that it was actually 7 times that I tried to kill myself. I had 7 strokes, Vlad, and it was on my 7th stroke on the 25th. And so I bit on that number 7 really hard. And the way he was, and I don't know if he's going to pull me away for sure in 7 years, But what I saw, and I had never read the Bible, oh boy, does it make so much sense right now. He showed me that this was just that the very beginning of the coronavirus is when that happened to me. That this situation was just the beginning of a lot of bad things to come. It was the start of something bad, something evil, something dark that had always been around, but it was going to get really aggressive. And I saw shaking and earthquakes. I saw places that were getting flooded. I very vivid and almost like a dream. I saw destruction and wars. I saw just so much scary stuff, and it didn't make sense to me so much at the time because I literally thought somebody had drugged me. I was with God and he was coaching me through all this stuff right then and there, but I was like, man, what? And man, the sevens, he said, I begged and pleaded, man. The whole time he brought anything up, I was on my knees, begging and pleading, crying. Man, please give me a second chance. I didn't know, man. I did not know. Let me show you now that I know. I didn't know you were watching me. I didn't know we were supposed to be good. I didn't know we could be helped through him. I didn't know there was a chance of me turning into a decent person. And I begged and pleaded, and he said, with the biggest, loudest voice I heard from him in the entire hour I was up there, kind of like, yeah, you want, and I didn't hear this, but it was kind of like he would have said, yeah, you want a second chance at it, buddy? He was like, well, then you tell everyone you see what you saw down there. Ooh, buddy, nobody wants that. And he said, you tell them what you saw up here. And when he said this, the way he said it, he said, you tell them I am coming. He said, there is no more reason for man to deny my existence. It is written. And I saw these gold letters. They almost look like Chinese. Now I know they were like Aramaic or Hebrewish letters. He says that it is written that I am coming back in these end times. And then he just wrapped me around that number 7. And he's like, your whole life is going to revolve around this number. You chase this number and you will find me. And right about that time is when I felt like I was descending a little bit, and then I looked, and I didn't see anybody else up there, but this light and almost like heaven, like just paradise. But I saw the face of my grandfather, almost like a silhouette of him. And when I saw that, it started clicking hard with me because my grandfather had one of these. My grandfather had a lot of scripture and stuff in his house. He was always talking about how God saved his life. My grandfather had been passed for 20 years. He was the most important man in my life. He taught me how to tie my shoes. He taught me how to ride a bike. He was trying to teach me about God. He wanted me to stay clear of alcohol. He was a God-fearing man, and I just didn't know anything about God. But when I saw him, it was almost like he had been praying for me the entire time that he was up there. And I wanted to hug him, and I went to hug him, and I started going down even faster. And I just remember what God was telling me. I'm looking down, and at this point, I really felt like I was high or something. I was like, man, whoa. And I looked down, and it was like I could see the whole world lay it out on Google Maps or something. And I noticed like Maine coastline. I could see the entire coastline just like on a map. And I was way over the body of water of the Atlantic Ocean. And I was just kind of hovering, coming down. And as I got closer, I could see I was coming down over North Carolina. And I was like, I wasn't remembering me down there. And I go, whoa, is that the marina? And I was like, dude, is that my sailboat? And I looked, man, and there was my body, and my dog was laying right beside my body, my chocolate lab. And something God was telling me in that moment about my dog. that it wasn't a coincidence that I had him. I had to lose my best friend to get that dog. And man, I saw a paramedic and a cop running down the dock. They were almost to my boat. And then bam, I hit my body. But like right before I hit my body, I looked up and it kind of all made sense to me for a second. I go, whoa, is this why these crazy people are knocking on doors with this book in their hand? Because when I was up there, I legitimately saw this huge white cross. And God was showing me that it was all about that everything was about this cross. And I just didn't know anything about this cross. And man, it was crazy because I kind of felt like the heaven just sealed up. I hit my body, and the cop and the paramedic, one of them had a cross, the other guy had a huge tattoo cross. And I was so out of it, dude, that I thought I probably was acting like a schizophrenic psycho because I just didn't even, I was like, whoa, what? And I just jumped around and I was like running around. And these guys were so nice to me. The cops were so nice to me. And hey, man, you're going to be all right, buddy. And everybody in the marina knew me. I had never done anything like that. I never started acting crazy. And I was yelling God and heaven and hell. And man, I felt like I was damaged from all the beatings and stuff I was taking down there. And especially getting through to the light when I was telling you about the rebarb. And I just wanted to see my face because I didn't believe anybody. They're like, no, you're not bleeding. And I looked, man, on my rib cage, and there was this huge 7 scratch. I mean, it was like 4 foot long all the way down and there was like scratches on me here and there. I'm like, whoa. And I was like, you guys, I felt like I was still in heaven. I was just so blown away by the experience. My mom ended up showing up, and everybody in the marina was so good to me because I was acting crazy. And like, man, Jeff's having a breakdown because my restaurant was closed because of the coronavirus, and people thought I was having like a mental breakdown. And that's kind of what I thought I was having, right? I was like, man, all right, I'm like, I went to, my mom drove me to her house. My sisters showed up. They all kind of sat me down like, what's going on? And I started telling them, boy, they didn't believe. I just started blurting out the craziest stuff. And I wanted to look in the mirror. I'm like, how is there not a big tear in my eyeball here? Like, I felt that. And they're trying to convince me to go to the hospital. I'm like, you don't have to convince me. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. So they get me in, and I start giving my sister like this is how much money I have in the bank. I think I'm getting ready to die. And we get it. And man, the hardest part about this was right in the beginning of the coronavirus. And if anybody was in the hospital then, it was not good, buddy. One of the things that keep me from drinking was seltzers with, like I had to have I really missed drinking. So I had to I was drinking 14 of these seltzers a day, and there were just no calories and stuff like that. But like nobody could get me anything. My mom couldn't talk to me. Nobody could talk to me. But as I walked in there, I'm not sure who it was, and I don't want to point a finger, but one of my family members was afraid that I was going to hurt myself, and they signed me in, which I didn't realize this until like after the doctors were like, I'm ready to go. I go, what do you mean? I get an MRI, I get a CAT scan and all this stuff. They're checking everything. And finally a doctor sits me down and he said, man, dude, it was weird. This guy had to have been from God. It was weird. It was the way he was looking at me and talking to me made me feel comfortable. And he goes, hey, buddy. You see, you got something. I'm not sure what it is. You got something going on with your carotid artery right here. I can see your previous strokes. I can see you had mini stroke here. And he goes, but you're not going to believe this. Because, dude, if you looked at my medical charts, bro, my liver and my kidneys were not functioning, even though I quit drinking a year before that. I was dying, bro. Like, I shouldn't have made it. Like, I was very quiet about this. Every once in a while, my eyes would get really yellow. My skin would get really yellow. And this is after I quit drinking. He goes, dude, your blood pressure is perfect right now. And he goes, I don't really see a stroke so much. And he goes, the miracle here, he goes, most of the scarring that shows up on your previous CAT scans shouldn't be gone, but I don't see much there anymore now. Yeah, And he bent down and he got on his knees and he looked at me. He goes, I think, and I'd never heard this before. He goes, I think you had a legitimate NDE. And I go, what? I go, what is that? A virus or something? And he was like, he gets down, and I thought maybe the coronavirus did that to me or something, you know, but I was in my boat. I was listening to what the government was telling me to do, and I was quarantining myself. I never really got sick. And he bent down and he said, I think you had a legitimate NDE. And he said, I think you should find God. He said, I think you need to find God. And I was like, what? I was like, all right, let me out. He goes, whoa, wait. He goes, one of your family members signed a piece of paper when you came in here, said you were going to harm yourself. We've got to watch you. And man, I just got scared as you could believe. I felt like I was in jail. I was like, what do you mean I can't? They wouldn't let me leave. And there was so much weirdness going on with this coronavirus in there. And you'll never believe this, man. It freaked my sisters out and my mom out. They tried to sue the hospital. I was out of there in 24 hours. They put me, there was a mental health place right inside the hospital there. And I knew of this place. I had some friends that go there. You were a crazy man if you went there. You're supposed to be there for about 7 days before they let you out. I was out of there in 24 hours, man. And I was lost when I walked. And they found man. I mean, I was connecting with people in there. They were all talking about this. One guy goes, he had a head trauma, and he goes, does anybody else feel like this is about religion? And I was like, whoa. And I just ran to him. I tried to hug him, and the nurses separated us. Don't touch him. Don't touch him. He's crazy. He was in a bad car accident. But the look on his face and the way my conscience was, it was something different. And then this girl who had a colostomy bag or whatever you want to call that, I was telling these guys my story. And they're like, oh, man, it's real. He's coming. Don't you see the signs? And I'm like, what? And I just didn't really believe in that. Man, I'm out, right? I'm out. And my girlfriend at that time picked me up. She admits that she's a Christian out of the middle of nowhere. And she's like, hey, look, I've had this. And I never even saw the cross. She had never even talked about it. And one of her friends was like, man, God's trying to get a hold of you. And this is where it all started kind of tiptoeing in. And I called my grandmother that lived in New Hampshire, because if anyone was a godly woman, it was her. And I called her and I told her kind of I gave her a short story of what happened to me. And she just started crying. She said, Jeff, I've been praying for you for so long. And she told me, she started talking about all these tragedies in her life that I knew about, but I never really absorbed. And she lost her first husband when he was extremely young, and her son, and all this loss. And she said, God got me through all of that, Jeff. All right. So that phone call kind of comforted me a little bit. And I'm scrolling on my phone. I finally go back to my boat where all of this happened, where I felt like hell was actually in my boat, maybe. And I'm really trying to understand. I want to find out exactly what happened to me, because I knew it wasn't a stroke. It was something different. And dude, I asked them to run all kinds of tests on drugs and alcohol. I'm like, dude, find something. Somebody slid me something. And he goes, dude, there's nothing in your system. I go, I haven't had a drink in a year. Can somehow maybe like somebody slip me alcohol? Could that have made me hallucinate? No. So I'm scrolling through my phone. Who do I call next? And right here, dude, this is how powerful God is, man. There's this guy, Martin, who I had done a bunch of nonprofit events for as a chef. And I didn't like this guy much, man, because every time I did one, I didn't get paid to do this stuff. But apparently I had a little good in me if I did it, you know, but I was more looking for the credit for winning the competition or managing the culinary part of it. His name was Martin. I don't know why his phone number was actually in my phone. I don't even keep contacts, really. You know, like I had my grandma, my mom, and a few other ones. And it's like Martin. And man, right here in my conscience, buddy, God started going to work. And it wasn't like the audible voice I was hearing up in heaven, but it was like my conscience was telling me to call this guy. And I look a little bit deeper at his name, and there's a red cross, like an emergency contact, it says. And I go, what? I was like, what in the? And man, dude, God made me call this guy. I had no choice but to call this guy, and I hadn't talked to him in a year or so. Dude, I was scared. I hit call. He answers the phone with the weirdest voice. Hey, Jeffrey, how you doing? And I go, oh God, Martin, man, please don't freak out on me. Don't call the cops, dude. Please, man, something's wrong with me. And I don't know much about this guy. He goes, what happened to you, Jeff? And I go, and the dude, it's the way I said it to this guy. He knew without a doubt. I couldn't even say God. I said, God is asking me to call you. And I kind of started crying. I was like, please, man, help me. I don't know what's going on. And he asked me what happened to you, Jeffrey? He goes, 7 years ago, God put a white light on you when you were working an event by the battleship. He put a white light on you, and he told me you were going to come to me one day. He goes, Jeff, I'm a minister. I'm a pastor. I traveled the world with a guy named Lonnie Frisbee. Everybody needs to Google that name. And he told me that when he was 18 years old, he tried to kill himself, and he had an outer body experience, and he met Jesus. And he said that Jesus said, we've got a lot planned for you down there. I would like you to go back. And he said he had the outer body experience. He had slit his arm the lengthwise. He should have totally bled out. And he saw his mom running down and everything happening. This guy tells me he's 77 years old. And he goes, Jeff, well, you got to get a Bible. And he just started saying, he goes, my phone hasn't rang in years. It's ringing off the hook now. People calling me, telling me to get ready, that God's coming back. He goes, we're living in the end times, Jeff. These are the last days. Everything is real. And I was so naive. I didn't know anything, right? And he's like, Jesus is real. I'm like, he goes, you need to get a Bible. And I got somebody gave me a little baby blue book. It was like small scriptures. Cause I only read one book in my entire life, and I had to go to summer school to read this. I was not a reader, bro. I was not a reader. I could barely read a sentence. It was very hard. I wasn't even good at reading out loud. When the teacher came by me, I made her skip me. I'd take an F. Okay. I just never learned how to really grasp reading. And this one guy made me read Of Mice and Men about 7 times before it computed. I had to go to summer school to do this, and I kind of learned how to read over that. So I get this, and it was intimidating, but I'm reading these things, and I'm just, everything in this little scripture was meant for me. It was like, and it was freaking me out, man. And at the same time was getting convicted, right? And I'd never had that weird feeling of conviction that I was a bad dude and I had done a lot of wrong. And man, I felt like I was still walking in heaven. And it was so powerful. Things were happening all around. God was dropping people left and right in front of me with their testimonies and trust me, you just got to find him. I'm like, well, where the hell is he, man? In the book. All right. And man, after 90 days, buddy, 90 days of digging for evidence and facts on Jesus and Googling his name and reading about the Bible. But I just kept running into these things in the Bible that I saw up there that he showed me up there. I go, that can't be a coincidence. I'm like, look at this. He says he created all this in about a week. And the way he showed me was like almost a week it took him, it seemed like, And I got to the weeping and gnashing of teeth. And that right there stopped me dead in my tracks. I was like, whoa. Because, man, that's what I heard and saw down there. I wasn't alone. There was people down there, and I didn't get a good look at them because I didn't want to, and I was just running, and it was dark. But that were weeping and grinding and gnashing their teeth in pain and fear and crying and screams that you wouldn't believe. And it just started hitting me, man, that, whoa, I don't want to go back there. I better get things right here. I better figure this out real quick. And man, every day I started learning more and more, and the evidence started proving itself. And I kept going, why does it say ADBC? Why does everybody acknowledge that? What happened at that moment? And I find out that The Roman Empire, bro, recorded 90% of this stuff, but not just them. It was tons of people. People of good credibility recorded all this stuff that happened. People saw this dude raise people from the dead, walk on the water, defeat death, rise on the third day. And I find out, oh, he wasn't just walking around for one day and just one dude saw him. This book wasn't written by just one guy. Multiple people over the years and years and years. And the fact that I saw that cross up there just kept itching at me. I'm trying to invest. What did Jesus say, right? And the first time it hit me really hard, before I read John 3:16, it was, Martin told me, when you get a Bible, a big one, you're just going to close your eyes, you're going to crack it open randomly, and you're going to stick your hand down, and that's where God's going to want you to be, because there are no coincidences. Buddy, I go, what's this red lettering here? He goes, ooh. He goes, those are the words of Jesus. It brought me to Matthew 24. And Bud, both those pages was every single thing God showed me to what was coming and warned me about. And I was just like, and I'm like, and I'm pretty dumb. And I'm literally flipping through this Bible. I'm like, this dude was seen by hundreds of people walking around, not for one day after he died on the third day, by hundreds of people for 40 days. And on day 41, he ascends. And when he ascends, multiple people see him do this. And it's been recorded. And over the years, it's been misconstrued and hidden, because the devil is alive and well, and he's full of lies, and God's full of truth. And I kind of lost my focus here, but that was in Matthew 24. And that hit me strong. And I believe the next day it was John 3:16. And I was reading this and trying to understand why God would send his son down here like that, and to get brutally murdered like that. I mean, brutal, worse than anything. No, there's been no murder like that in a long time, man. Why would, if he loved his son so much, why would he do it? And it was almost like, wait, what? He did it for me? And I was like, are people dumb? Do they not see? Like, all these things are coming. Like, there's wars and rumors of wars everywhere right now. I'm like, there's famines. I'm like, this COVID virus is like, never seen anything like it before in my life. And it said, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. And man, when I said that, dude, it was like two big sledgehammers hit my brain. And I started crying, dude, like uncontrollably crying, like I had just lost my mom. And I felt convicted, and I started spewing all these things out, knowing that I'm biting on this and God has to be real. And I don't know what else to do, man. And I'm just asking for forgiveness as I'm coughing up these awful things that I did. And I immediately hit my knees for the first time, and I prayed for him. I prayed with him, and I said, hey, man, you saw me. You watched everything I went through down there, buddy. Like, you saw what I had to do to get to you. It was not easy. I was like, man, you know. And I'll never forget this. When I got up there, when you say people have, God has a humor, he almost said this, like, whoo, man, a lot of people don't actually make it out of there. Isn't that weird? I gave my life to him in that moment, because I was so thankful for being alive and finding all of this. And more importantly, I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to get back in there from all the horrible things I had done, even though I quit drinking and all this stuff. And when I did quit drinking, I immediately stopped lying. And I think obviously God was watching all of this, but I stopped lying, and it was hard, but I had to not lie about things. And I said, I'm not going to cheat on a girl. And I stopped doing all that. And I denied a lot. Man, women were coming up on me left and right, and I denied it for a year, man. I was very loyal. And when I just caved in and I just accepted that I needed this dude, and that God sent him down here on a mission to rescue the world from our filthiness, I said this, not even knowing, I don't think I had run across it in the Bible yet, but I hit my knees crying. I said, man, I'm all in. I'm all in, man. I was like, I like, you hear people selling their soul to the devil. Well, I sold it to Jesus and to God, man. I said, man, you got me, bro. You have me. You use me for whatever you want. You want to beat me up right now? You beat me up, you know? I was like, I just want back in there. I wanted to get back to that experience, the feeling that I had around his love. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. The peace, the love, the overwhelming comfort of his compassion and love around that light. And I said, I'm all in. And I confessed with my tongue and my mouth and my conscience and my heart. I said, I believe that your son rose on that third day. I've seen the evidence. I am done procrastinating. And I said, my mom thinks I had a heart attack when I did this, but I stood up and I said, you can nail me to that cross. And I pounded on my chest, which where my heart was, really bad. And I just devoted everything I had to let him know I was all in. I said, you can nail me to that cross. I'm all in. And when I said that, dude, you cannot tell me that Jesus isn't real. Man, this white light grabbed me and sucked me up, and nobody probably going to believe it, and I don't care. It is what it is. It's nothing but truth. I went up in a white tunnel, and I felt like I went past the first place I was in heaven to like a little higher up. And I didn't see Jesus like I'm looking at you right now, but I saw a silhouette of a beautiful man walking my way, that the light was so bright coming off of him. I dare not look because I was scared. And I had a moment of, I had so many questions about my first experience, and very simple and politely, Jesus answered every single question I threw at him. Most of them were personal, very personal. It gave me a clarity and a conviction and a truthfulness that I knew that he was the way, the truth, and the life. And there was no other way, that I had to go through him. And all I remember him telling me is, follow me. And it was like he was saying, listen to my word, listen to my voice. I am the word. And I went down. I went back down. But this time when I hit my body, I was a new man, dude. I felt like I was a legit child of God, man. Immediately, I was like a different person. I had so much joy in my heart, and I knew I had a mission. I knew that he had tons of people lined up for me. But I didn't know what to do or how to get to these people or whatever. So I just and he started, man, introducing me to people. I was staying at my mom's house that was living in a different part, and I was walking at night holding my cross. I got a cross. I got everything immediately. I was trying to get baptized. It was impossible. The churches didn't want to do it. You got to fill out paperwork, blah, 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 blah. But I couldn't. Martin just takes me in. My buddy Martin just takes me in, and every day we're meeting, we're going through the Bible. He tells me he traveled the world with Lonnie. Lonnie was a hippie. Lonnie Frisbee was a hippie that ate a bunch of LSD, and this had me because I was like, all right. And I thought Martin was full of crap. I Googled this dude, and this is way before the movie Jesus Revolution even came out. And way before it. And God just confirmed it so hard, so many times with me. He said, I traveled the world with Lonnie. Lonnie ate LSD and went into the desert and said, Jesus, if you're real, reveal yourself to me. And Jesus came down and changed Lonnie. Lonnie was just some dude that walked into churches that had 4 or 5 people in them. Next thing you know, they were completely filled. He did that all around the world. He was responsible for baptizing millions of people, most of them on the California coast. A lot of them hippies. And for me, because I thought I was a hippie back in the day, this was very interesting. And I just kind of what did this guy do? He walked like Jesus, man. And I just wanted to do that. And man, that's it. One morning, it was one night, I was holding my cross. I was like, what are you going to do with me, God, man? I'm just trying to listen. And where my mom lived, there was a bunch of nice bars. But in Wilmington, it's an alcoholic town. People don't get out of the bars like 2 a.m. And I was walking my dog, and it was really dark, and across the road, and it was a nice neighborhood. But I know the bars are letting out from there because I used to drink there. And I see some guy that kind of looks like a hippie. It actually looked to me like a silhouette of Jesus coming this way. I couldn't really see it. And as that person walked by, it was like God was like, now. And I was like, I did not want to do this. I'm like, you're telling me to turn around and follow this person? I was on the other side of the sidewalk, so I felt kind of comfortable doing it. So me and my dog, I'm still in my chef jacket. So, at least they'll know I'm not going to rape them or something, and I've got my beautiful chocolate lab. So he's going to break the ice. And I go, all right, God, you want me to talk to this person? Make them stop at that little light right there. That person stopped right at that light. And from across the way, I said this, I'm sorry. And I had I was nervous. I'm sorry. Please don't freak out. Do you believe in God? And a woman's voice called out, almost crying, like, why are you asking me this right now? And I was like, is it okay if I come over, please? I'm like, I'm not going to hurt you. And I brought my dog over there, and she was distraught. This woman was in tears. She had a long jacket on. She had something in her jacket. I know now that it was a gun. All right. This was after. And I believe this was God's first test for me, whether I was going to bite or not. I went up to this woman and I started talking to her. I said, look, something's going on with you. I know. And I had a feeling that she was very distressed. She said, my whole family has turned against me. My husband has turned against me. I've been living over here. And she was bitter and mad. And no, I don't believe in God anymore. I used to. And I was just like, whoa, he's coming back. Like I just got out of heaven 3 months ago. I'm like, trust me, I'm the last dude on this planet would be wearing this. I go, it's all real. He's coming. Hold on tight. You got to connect with him again. You got to go to prayer. I had a coin in my pocket that somebody had given me, and it was bugging me all day long. Why do I have this weird coin? Dude, I pulled this coin out of my hand and out of my pocket and look at my hand. It said, with God, all things are possible. And it clicked. She needed this coin. And I gave it to her. All right. Immediately, she had some comfort. She started calming down. I said, honey, you just need to go talk to him. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Don't worry about those people. The world is messed up. And I was like, man, I just did what I could for her, man. I did what I could. I tried to comfort her. And I said, look, I'm a real dude. I'm a chef. Jeffrey Porter, executive chef right here. This is my dog, Ziggy. Man, I'm real. And she goes, how do you, I said this to her. I don't know why I said this, but it's because God pushed me. I said, whatever it was that happened to you when you were a child, he will never forget that. He's always been with you. He will never leave you. He's waiting for you to come back. I don't know why I said that. That ain't me. She got some kind of peace and she said, thank you. And she kind of walked away. All right. When I stepped away from there, oh my God, for 3 seconds, it felt like I was walking in heaven and God was walking right beside me. He gave me that feeling that I was desperately wanting to get again. And it was like, this is what I need you to do to help my people. And it just blew me away because she said she used to know God, but she didn't believe anymore. And I told her I was the last dude on this planet would ever even wear any of this stuff. The second I started confessing God and Jesus, I lost 90% of my friends. Now they all, well, I'm crazy. He's crazy. The man, people started making up stories that I was on drugs. And man, it was just, it was kind of hurtful and disgusting at the same time, but I didn't care because I had I had the thing I'd been looking for all my life was in front of me. And man, the way he rewarded me for that little action there and told me that that was going to be my job, I just started waiting until he put people in front of me. And I knew they weren't coincidences. I started giving. I was walking my dog another night by my mom's house, and I walked up to this weird area, and I kept walking in the woods, and I come out on this little weird school, and I see these two little angel statues. And I go up to these statues. They're little kids, and there's sevens in these numbers. These are young kids that passed away from like autism and some other I'm realizing that this is a school for kids that are in trouble of some sort, physically, maybe mentally. And I look at these like gravestone things, and I'm like, man, I got to come back here. Man, he brought me all. My dog kind of led me all the way out there, and I was like, whoa! I never even knew this place was like a quarter of a mile from my mom's house, and it was on the main road. And I drove by it the next day. I was like, wow. So I walked right up in there with my chef jacket on. I said, I don't know if you guys believe in God or not, but I have to do something for you. I want to feed your entire staff, kids and everything. And I said, look, I have this and this and this. Let me do something. What, can you just give me a date? And they were blown away. And they were blown away. And I did it, and I put all my effort into it. It was, and they were blown away. And I told them that God sent me to do it. And I had to do these things for him. That place was called Easter Seals of North Carolina, maybe. And it's this very powerful school, and they're around, and they help children. I believe it's like a school for children, and that are having on hard times and stuff like that. And they did me so right. They put up a big like blog on their Facebook and stuff like that. And it was, instead of me getting money, which I was always going after, I gave. And God rewarded me not with money, but something way better, with like gratitude from these people. And then knowing that those teachers really probably needed that. Those students really probably needed that they needed a break. The coronavirus was shaking up any kind of education, and everybody was scared and didn't know what to do. And I'm sure everyone was scared, food and whatever. I put the mask on, I did the whole nine. I went in there with my chef coat and I did it. And the reward that God gave me there was very similar. It was the best feeling in the world. And man, very slowly, he just started moving me, man, in front of lost people, whether they be a lost Christian or not even so much lost, but that just had, the devil has thrown a wrench in their game. And man, something about that testimony he gave me, it's got nothing to do with me, because when I start talking to these people, it ain't even me. He just like that. Our first talk, dude, I barely even remember that. I just plowed right through that, but it was nothing but truth. That's exactly the way it went down. And I realized really quick that he was asking me to go home. He wanted me to go home. I was born in New Hampshire. And I was like, that's weird. I've always wanted to go back home and have a restaurant. Okay. And at this time I had a fine dining restaurant called Portside Bistro right on the beach, man. And it was swanky. I tried to do the best I could with it in that little town, but I knew I had to do things different. It wasn't about me anymore. It wasn't about that bougie food anymore. It was about feeding people that needed to be fed. It was about breaking bread. It was about helping. I moved all the way up to New Hampshire. I started being obedient, and the way I was repenting from my sins was amazing. Like I stopped doing any nasty stuff I knew was wrong. You know what I mean? And he just kept rewarding me with these great feelings. So I get all the way up home, and I took a job on a whim at a country club in Sunapee, New Hampshire, called Lake Sunapee Country Club, and they're private country club. But I get up there and it's a mess. I'm like washing more dishes than I'm cooking, but I'm putting out the best food this town's ever seen, and everybody's loving me. But I'm not getting along there because God's nowhere there. There's all kinds of adultery going on in front of my face. I'm trying to help this guy. I just didn't like it. And on October 7th. When I was going in there, the main water line blew. Okay. October 7th. And man, I plowed through it. And it was, I was risking my job. The owner didn't shut down. I'm like, we have no right, dude. It's illegal to do this. We have to have water. All the bathrooms were getting gross. And I felt so nasty and guilty. I just left, man. I was like, that's my last day there. I tried to fight for the job. I wanted them to change some things. They just wanted me out. They used me up like a piece of toilet paper. I was working 80 hours a week there. I didn't get any of my bonuses. They screwed me hard. But I know God wanted me there, and there was a crossroads right there at the entrance. So I comfortably knew he wanted me there. So when I left, I felt like I was not being obedient. I felt like I should have toughed it out, and then no, he rewarded me immediately. I found my soulmate. And I had always been chasing women, trying to find somebody I would connect to, like without all the jealousy and drama and just hatred and meanness. And I wanted to find real love, and I met this girl, and I put it out there that I couldn't have an alcoholic in my life. This person had to be in love with Jesus more than they were in love with me. And I found the person. Her name was Marjorie. And our first walk, we walked for like an hour and a half, man. And she stopped and looked at me, and I had been looking at her the whole time. She was so beautiful, but it was like God spoke to me, and I saw her, like it was like he pulled a white veil off of her, like a white dress, and she was just glowing, man. And I heard him speak, and he said, "She's one in a million." And man, I've been with some women, and I've just tried, and I had never met anybody like this in my entire life. She is my soulmate. She is my everything. And we have been through some of the hardest stuffs, but we use Jesus and all of that. And I never had that. And within a couple of weeks, she gave me a key to her house. Here we go I pull up to her house one day, and I had to use Google Maps because I didn't know where she quite lived, and I've been away a long time. And as I'm pulling in, the Google thing says, "Your home, 122 is the address." That's my birth date, dude. God said my whole life is going to revolve around sevens, right? Her birthday, 1977, but it's 3/14/77. My whole entire life, my favorite number has been 14. And I realized half of 14 is 7. And I was like, this isn't a coincidence. This is the woman I'm supposed to be with. And man, I started doing food trucks. Her mother is a woman of God. She's an unbelievable Christian. And she had a little place that I wanted to get my hands on called Dad's. And she had pamphlets out there with like the book of John and stuff. And she had small scriptures and stuff. And I said, "Hey, can I do one of my pop-ups in your restaurant during the winter?" Nobody does anything. It was an old A&W. And it had an outdoor, like, pull-up, kind of like a Sonic. And I said, "This place is perfect for a ghost kitchen. Like, I don't want anybody come in here. Let them pull up." And Marjorie said, "Why don't you call it Breaking Bread?" And I was like, so we started breaking bread there. And man, immediately God started rewarding me. And it was like people were noticing things, and I couldn't go full blown there. He moved me around. I had like 7 food trucks. I started building food trucks and putting crosses on every single one of them, and I'd sell them. I'd get them inspected running, and I'd sell it for dirt cheap. I wasn't trying to make a profit. I just wanted to help somebody. And every time one of those food trucks, whether it went to like Nashville or Florida or wherever, they were all bought by people that loved Jesus. And they really wanted the truck because God was convicting them to get these trailers and food trucks and stuff. Finally, I get my real legit place right on Main Street, and I can go full blown with it. I make a church look so lukewarm, it's not even funny. It is not even funny. Like, to tell you the truth, I've got maybe one pastor that comes in and eats in there. And it's a female, and she's amazing. And I can feel the presence of God coming off of her church and her. And, but the amount of people that have come in there and accepted it, and the town bashes me. Like the town of Newport does not, like the chamber. I don't see any of the town in there, minus the police department are like my best customers, the fire department. But I've got all these locals who they finally trusted me because we're old school town in New Hampshire, and I want to bring these big bold flavors. And I had to like sacrifice a lot of my culinary knowledge to dull it down for them. But at the same time, I was doing what I loved, but I was starting to kind of hate it a little bit. But I was loving. I just kind of been cooking your whole life. You just don't want to. And I'm like, man, this place should be packed. It should be packed, man. But I was noticing a lot of people were like, man, that religious freak, and they were poking on Facebook. And I wouldn't eat there just because nobody gave me a chance because of the crosses. We're definitely, without a doubt, the busiest restaurant in town now. Like I close early almost every day because we can only, it's me and one other girl. And I have help here and there from her ex-husband and some people that come in here. And a lot of Christians help me out. It's been very hard, but the miracles I have seen, the amount of people that have stumbled in there accidentally, just coming away from death, from a family member or something, that have found so much comfort in the scripture on the wall. And wait, what? You guys have Bibles here? I buy stuff every week, man, like these bracelets and crosses and all this stuff, and I put it out there for free. Every bit of money that business makes stays right in that business. It doesn't go to me. It helps keep the business running. And it was hard to accept that. It was like I was nail biting for the first year. Every week I'm like, I'm not going to make it. But dude, I don't even have a credit card, Vlad. I had $26 to my name on my last inspection, which was either going to make or break me. And man, I did it all on my knees. I never gave up hope. I prayed harder. The more trouble I get in, the harder I pray. If the devil comes this way, I pray even harder. If sin comes to me, I get down on my knees, I repent, and I pray even harder. I realize that he's testing us, that he doesn't want lukewarm, that he doesn't want, we can't fool him. So the fact that people think they can fool him by walking into a church once a week and doing a lot of blah, 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 and then go out to the bar right after church and go sleep with some random woman, that's not what he's looking for. And there's so much controversy on how Jesus works. Well, I know exactly how he works. He does not, we don't deserve to be near him if we're lukewarm. We have to earn it. It's not supposed to be easy, man. Most of the people that find Jesus find him in massive tragedy. You know what I mean? And like on their knees crying for a desperate attempt to either end their life or they're just, done with life. And I realized that this was his mission for me and that I couldn't push it. I couldn't go up to somebody and say, hey man, I need to tell you about Jesus. No, I have to let him bring them to me. I have to let him put them in front of me. I have to listen to my conscience and have the discernment, and I'm doing things I never thought I'd be capable of doing. Like when he asked me to, I stop, I turn around and I go talk to that person. It happened this morning on the beach. If you look at my Facebook, man, the miracles that he is doing right now, help me cope with my mom's loss. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. The sunrise says it all this morning, man. I had one shot at the sunrise while I was down here, and I was like, God, I need a cross and a 7 in there. Bro, you look at my videos, oh my God, you cannot tell me that he isn't the most powerful thing in the world. And lifeguard stand, number 7 this morning, scripture in the sand, right where I wanted it. It said, signed Jesus. Well, he signed his name on the sky this morning for me. And man, the only thing that's got me through my mom's loss is Jesus, because I know where she's going. I connected with her so hard. She walked me through most of this. She taught me so much about love and forgiveness and changing. And, she was one of the very few people that never thought I was going crazy. She knew that God got a hold of me.
My name is Tina, a leader in the God's Voice Today community. If you need prayer or want someone to stand in faith with you, head on over to family.godsvoicetoday.com. We'd love to connect with you, encourage you, and lift up your needs in prayer. Come join us today.
Well, speaking of your mother, And there's so many questions, man. I'm just looking. I wrote them all down. They're right here on the screen. I just want to jump around. We were going to jump around a little bit, but as we're talking about your mother, you shared in the previous call, that phone call, that when she called you about her cancer. Tell everybody watching what she said and how that impacted your life.
Okay, the first time my mom got cancer, she called me, I think it was 2019. June 22nd, 2019. I was working as an executive chef in Asheville, North Carolina. I had like my dream job at a music venue. And I was able to drink all day long and do my thing. I was very close to my daughter, and I always try to put I learned a lot from the way I was raised on how not to do it. So I made a conscious effort the entire time that I was drinking to try to put her first. I didn't do the best job, but I tried as hard as I could. So I moved up there to make sure she was going to be, getting into high school and all this stuff. She was getting her driver's license. So I wanted to move closer. And one night out of the middle of nowhere, my mom called me, and we talked every other night, but she called me in a frantic voice. And she said, Jeff, I don't know how to tell you this. She goes, but I've got stage 4 breast cancer. And I was like, and I did this. She knows this is the truth, but I said, Mom, you're full of I said, you got fake boobs, Mom. Come on. Because my family likes to joke with me. And I thought for sure she was joking. So I kept going, nah, Mom, you had me. Yeah. And sometimes she'd act like one of my sisters and get away with it for a while in her voice. I'm like, who is this? So I thought it might have been a joke. And then she got real serious with me. And she goes, well, your sisters have known for a while. And I go, well, what am I, chopped liver over here? Like, why didn't you tell me? She goes, you really want to know? She goes, I was afraid you were going to drink yourself to death, Jeff. And man, did that hit me, buddy. And I was like, Mom, I've been trying to drink myself to death since I've had to learn how to drink. It's impossible. And man, I didn't really make a commitment to her right then and there, but something told me I had to stop. I had to be like, I knew I could easily go down there and keep drinking and bring her to her chemo. And then I'd drop her off and run to the bar. I loved Wilmington. There's so many bars. I got them tattooed all over me. And, I had a good bunch of friends when I was a drinker, of course the bartenders love you because you're throwing cash at them and they want you to get drunk. So that night when I put the phone down, and I mean this, Vlad, I totally did not believe in God. I was an atheist, to say it the best, but I remember saying this very sarcastically, like, God, I'm going to need some help with this. And I called my Uncle Fatty and I asked him, I was like, dude, how do I do this, man? I'm like, you have been like, he still has he has a great time at any family function and he doesn't drink. And I just couldn't get that. I'm like, how are you like always in a good mood and having a great time? You're partying with everybody, but you're not drinking. And he says, as dumb as it sounds, Jeff, you've heard it 1,000 times, just one day at a time, man. Just wake up tomorrow and don't drink. And he goes, when you get through that day, do it again, man. Just don't drink the next day. And man, I haven't had a sip of alcohol since. I quit my job immediately, dude. Like that next morning, I went in there and I raised hell. They wouldn't give me 2 weeks off to go be with my mom. And I said, screw this. I'm out of here. I packed up all my crap. My Jeep was so packed up that I almost crashed going home. I actually broke a shock in the front and it was wonky as heck and almost flipped over. But I get home and I could tell that my mom needed me, and because God helped me stop drinking through that, I was able to be there for her in a way that I never could have been. I still didn't know God, but I was not drunk. And I knew I couldn't go drop my mom off and then go have a beer and pick her up, even though she totally would have been cool with that. And I said, no, man, I'm going to do this real. And I brought her to all of her chemos. And boy, did it wait. The first time I went there with her, there was over 100 women in this room just on the Tuesday. And it broke my heart because most of these women had nobody with them. and they were all hooked up to this toxic crap that was just killing them. And I don't know, man. It made my love for my mom stronger, and I just started being there for her more. And I did everything I could to make her comfortable through this, and I tried my hardest to be the best guy I could for her. Even it wasn't easy, but I did. I hid my anger as much as I could. She's got the prettiest feet. I massaged her feet. Her legs were hurting all the time from all this stuff. I tried to massage her legs and everything I could. And when she trooped right through it, she made a mockery of cancer, dude. It was amazing. And she almost came out, her hair came out even sexier and nicer and thicker, like her body, her smile, everything. She came out on top somehow. And I know it wasn't easy because I saw it killing her, but she didn't whine about it. She didn't complain about it. She just took it. And, that did a lot for me, man, because my mom was sitting there pretty much dying off that stuff. And when it was all said and done, I had already found God. And she sat me down and she goes, I never really told you this, but she goes, I know for a fact that God gave me that cancer to save your life. And when she said that to me, it was a game changer. You know what I mean? I was like, God almighty, I never would have quit drinking. He knew that. That's how powerful he is. He knew there was no other way for me to quit drinking. And I tell people this, I never would have believed in hell or heaven. 1 million people could have gave me this testimony that I'm giving you. I would have laughed it off. I might have been polite to them, but I would have just been like, bull crap. And then, when she said that, God, I lost my train of thought there, but she said that to me. It was very powerful.
Yeah, it woke you up, right? It set you on the right path, and that your mom played a part in that. And now
she paid the price too, man. Like she did, and she accepted that. She accepted that, that she was positive that God gave her. That was the only way I would have quit drinking. Just like the only way I ever would have believed heaven and hell were real. God knew this. That's why he had to throw me down there. That's why he gave me that last stroke. And, when I was having my life review, he showed me that all those strokes weren't a coincidence. They were him. And when he showed me, Vlad, each one of those strokes slowed me down enough from drinking just to barely keep me alive. Because if I would have kept going, and each time, especially on my first stroke, I was like, man, I got to change my ways, dude. I'm a new man. I got a second chance at life. Nope. The first thing I wanted to do. And I'd ask the doctors, can I still drink? And they were like, yeah, we don't think it was from the drinking. We're trying to figure it out. And what ended up happening is I finally got in front of an amazing neurologist that found out by looking at old MRIs, and he pointed out one day, bam, there's your stroke. And he goes, man, you fell through that. He's like, those should have killed you or left you paralyzed. And he was like, you're a ticking time bomb, dude. And what we found out is my right carotid artery over here, it's got a couple abnormal loops in it. Most of them just kind of make like a 7. This one's got some swiggles in it. And I've got massive amount of cholesterol. My levels were outrageous. And a bunch of plaque has built up in there. So when you get my blood pressure going, a little bit of that plaque could crack off and it would block. And that's why I kept falling down and it was a massive vertigo for months and years. And that plaque would just clog all my blood going to my brain. And I'd just drop. And I've had a couple of episodes where like I could tell that I got my blood pressure too, but nothing like the other strokes. Like, it's all been gone. It's all been miracles. Like I've seen and watched too many miracles to know that this wasn't him. You know what I mean?
Well, Jeffrey, man, I know, man, this was so quickly last minute you jumped on. I really appreciate you doing all this. And some people in the comments were saying, it's like, this guy's not real. This is AI. Vlad is just playing a bunch of AI stuff. And I was like, man, I'm going to bring Jeffrey on this show. He's real, a real human being. I love the fact that You have all this, like the crosses all over you, the hat, the necklace, the
True
shirt,
story, bro.
everywhere you
story.
go. I mean, you can't. It's hard to wrap my mind around the idea that you were once an atheist and now you look like that. I mean, you represent them well. Your story is powerful,
And it
and
makes me desperate for all the atheists out there. And I tell them, man, it's very simple, man. You just got to take a coincidence out of it. Like, man, even the flip of a quarter, God's got control of.
Well, and it's something that this whole, God took away all these different things, right? How many times you're trying to end your own life and the gun wasn't there and he spared your life. And then you think of people
He knows what's good for us.
But then you see people like somebody I know personally who followed through and it did happen for them. And I do wonder, did they have their warnings? Did God try to prevent what this one person I'm thinking about did multiple times try to end his own life and didn't happen. And finally, the last one followed through. But God is so merciful that he will go pretty far to save a person.
I think that everybody gets a chance at the end, man. Everybody, that he gives every man a chance at the end. A lot of people look at suicide as like one of the biggest sins and stuff like that. But I've talked to a lot of people that have found him in suicide. Like they had their near-death experience, by a near miss, and me trying that 7 times, and every time there shouldn't have been a problem. It should have been very turnkey. And I was telling my grandmother, I remember one time very in particular when it was 3 a.m. and I got off my boat and I was down. I was done. I was just done. And I'd always been scared of being eaten by a shark. And it was very late at night. They were dredging. There was a huge pipe. And I went out there and I was by myself. It was dark. I took all my clothes off, man, and I started swimming out there. And I was good. I was praying that something was going to grab a hold of me, man, or I was just going to drown. And as I was swimming out there, man, something turned me around. You know what I mean? Something turned me around. That something is God. God's in our conscious directing us, man, all the time. And it's free will is a beautiful gift, but we shouldn't take it for granted.
Yeah. And for everybody watching and listening, some people are like, man, I'm going to try to take my own life and have this kind of experience. Like, you don't want to play with life.
Don't even think about it, man. That's God's choice.
You don't want to follow through and find out. What you need to do is drop to your knees and repent and get close to God and reach out to him, cry out to him, and he will come. Well, Jeffrey, I want to make sure I honor your time. You've been so generous, and I look at the time. Oh my gosh, I'm holding you over big time. But I just want to say again, thank you so much. There's so many minor questions that I had, but you covered it all. I appreciate you sharing so much detail. What a journey, what a life. It's going to impact so many lives, so many people listening in the future now, and all because of your obedience. So many people contributed to your journey. Thank God for people like Martin. By the way, last question. Where's Martin today?
He lives in close to Southport. I'm going to try to link up with him probably tomorrow. We talk about every 6 months. He's kind of let me, once he knew that God had me on the right path, he was able to he saw, and he goes, and he knew exactly what God was going to do with me. And he said it. He said, he's going to put you in front of people, man. And you just got to do what he's asking you to do. And I don't find any, I don't know. I'm not boastful about this for me. I'm just saying, hey, look, I always tell people it's got nothing to do with me and everything to do with that person and God. Like if he is putting that person in front of me, I look at, I go, man, you're a billionaire. If he is I'm like, you leave the money, please, out of it. But like you were like the most important person in the world. If he's putting focus on that person. And every single time, it happened at the beach this morning, I was almost off of there and some young kid came up and he was about to cry. He looked at my shirt. It was a hoodie. It said, it says something, Jesus saved my life. Ask me how. And that sparks one real quick. And this 21-year-old kid who had a lot of tragedy in his life and stuff is a Jesus lover, but he needed to hear what I had to say. right there in that moment. Like, that woman needed to hear that. She was ready to kill herself. And I knew it. Like, if I wouldn't have been obedient, then something bad could have happened to her. But I listened to God, and we just all need to listen to him. Nothing bad comes out of following God, you know?
Well, Jeffrey, in closing, those of you that are watching right now, they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Those that just want to check out. And a lot of people are going to be watching in the future. What would your message be to that person?
Impress him while you can. We want to impress our Father. We want our Father to be proud of us. You know, we want to repent. We have to. Free will is a beautiful gift, but don't abuse it. You know, everybody's got the right to deny him, but that's their choice because of free will. And I'll say it's probably the stupidest choice they'll ever make in their life, because the free gift of heaven, that Jesus took one for the team, man. He took one for the team like nobody, and he wants a big team. He wants a big, happy team. You know, I believe my soulmate is perfectly right when she said that everyone goes, why did God do all this if he knew it was going to happen? If he knew, man, you know, maybe God was not lonely, but maybe he saw good in man and wanted some friends. Maybe, you know, maybe it was kind of a little quiet up there with just him, the Holy Spirit and Jesus, you know? And he was like, well, why not add to it? But I'm not going to be lied to anymore. He said, you're not going to fool me into here. And it's, and I try to tell people this, it's a test. I know this for a fact. God tests us every day to see what we're going to do with it, you know? And he checks it down and he records every bit of it. And the more obedient we are, the better off we are as a human being, regardless. It just molds us. It turns us into better people for the world, but more importantly for us and for him.
And it's not about how you start your race, it's how you finish that race. And for you, Jeffrey,
without a doubt, man, because I was lost for 40 years of my life, man, you know? I never paid him any attention for 40 years of my life. And what he's doing for me right now is above and beyond what I deserve.
And it's not too late for everybody watching. Those that are watching right now, they think that it's too late. They've gone too far. You did not go too far.
You never did. The prodigal son story is the best story out there. You know, he wants to say he's going to throw a party every time we come back. You know, you can run away 100 times. He is so forgiving. He wants you to come back every time. He is not going to hold it against you for running back into his arms, you know? He knew every sin we were going to commit, just like he knew that I only had 5 hairs on my head right now, you know? He knew every sin we were going to commit before we were even born. And that is the beauty of God, you know? The fact that he knows what we're going to do with him in our time, yet he allows us to do the free will, and he's arms wide open. And I know this for a fact. He wants every single one of us to run to him, no matter how bad you are, no matter how troubled you think you are. He just wants you to run to him, and he will take care of everything. Jesus, hold the wheel kind of thing, you know?
And for those of you that are doubting Jeffrey's experience, think about this. Why would somebody wear what you wear in public? Like, ask me about how Jesus saved my life. I know Christians that wouldn't wear a shirt that says Jesus saves because they're too embarrassed by it or something.
Man, you're nailing it, dude. We have to be bold. This is the season, without a doubt. This is a season for us to be bold and to spread. The whole purpose of a Christian is to spread the amazing, beautiful news of Jesus. You know, since day one, you know, the 12 went out, right? We're supposed to be all out there, and he's allowing us to still take bites of the fruit while we're doing it. You know, that's a merciful, forgiving God right there. Oh, you bit the fruit? Come back. I'll get you. I'll spit it out. I got you, you know? And man, it's all about love, forgiveness, and repentance, you know, and respect for our Lord and the beautiful gift he gave us on the cross, especially God sending his only son down here. I mean, if that isn't love, I don't know what love is. He did that for us, so everybody could get a piece of that.
Well, Jeffrey, I don't even know how to end this other than to say thank you so much. Everything you have going on right now, you took the time to share your testimony so that thousands, if not millions of people can hear your story and be changed and not have to go through what you went through. So thank you for that. We applaud you, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, my friend.
Hey, if this story moved you, there is definitely more. Every day, someone new shares their supernatural encounter with Jesus. So hit subscribe right now and don't miss what's coming up next. And if you're ready for another powerful supernatural testimony, tap the next video on your screen right now, and I'll see you there.